Hello, everyone. Very good evening. I know I keep forgetting that some of you joined from some other places, but still, in East Coast, in New York, it's on the New York side, it's evening. So, very good evening. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you making the time to be with us. So, before we start today's topic, again, I'll share some of the services Manhattan Center is offering. And before that, my name is Anita, and I welcome everyone who's joining us on Zoom, YouTube, and Facebook. Thank you, and very warm welcome to everyone. So coming to the community services offered by Manhattan Center. Wait 1 second, something is wrong. We offer live meditation twice a day, power boost meditation in the afternoon from Monday to Friday, and good night meditation in the night at 8 p.m. from Monday to Saturday. And on Sundays, it is at 7:30 p.m. Meditator shares a thought on a particular topic, guides you into meditation after introducing the topic, and the whole thing is just for 15 to 20 minutes. Actually, good night meditation is even a little shorter than that because we are at the end of the day and we are ready to wrap the day and retire, right? So if you have been joining or you have joined sometime our live meditation, that's wonderful. If you haven't, we really encourage you to try it out because anything which is fresh and live always has much more benefit, right? When it comes to food, we say it tastes better, but when it comes to meditation, we say the benefit is much more. On June 18th, which is a Saturday, we are offering a workshop. The topic is the art of living. The timings are in the morning from 10 to 11:30. If you haven't registered for it, go ahead and register. The link is available on our website. Registration link is already posted. And please do spread the word around to your friends and family who might be interested in learning the art of living. I'll be very surprised if somebody will say, oh, I really don't need to know. But beside that, we are also offering a meditation course on June 25th and 26th. The timing are from 11 to 12:30 p.m. Again, the registration link is already posted on our website. I will post the links again in the chat. If you have registered, that's wonderful. If you haven't, and you're interested in either learning meditation or just, rebushing whatever you have learned earlier, if you have attended or joined any of the courses with Manhattan Center or any other Brahma Kumari Center, we encourage you to register. Besides that, we also offer this Thursday lecture series, which you are all aware of because you join us every Thursday. Recordings of the Thursday lectures, as well as the meditations, are available on Manhattan Center's YouTube channel, as well as on Facebook page. So if you're interested in reviewing anything, you have all the resources available at your hand. That's all as far as community services go. So today's topic, coming out of the herd mentality. If you guys have seen our flyer or if you have joined the session when there was a picture on the screen, right? You might have noticed that it was a herd of sheep, right? We kind of we know about herd mentality, we experience the things, it's same thing as the peer pressure and all. So I'm not going to talk about that, but I want to tell a story which relates with that picture. And I will leave it up to today's speaker, Sister Ines Frank. She will walk us through how we can come out of the herd mentality. Coming back to the story, I don't know if any one of you or all of you have heard about the story, which it happened in 2005 in Turkey, that the herd of sheep fell off the cliff. One sheep went off the cliff and or the rest of the herd just followed. And shepherds were just watching, standing there dumbfounded and couldn't do anything. Did you hear about that? It's a big news. You know, they said mass jump by the sheep. And that's why the picture we picked up is the herd of sheep that, you know, sometimes we end up kindly blindly follow something, and that really can hurt. May not always be the case, but it can hurt. So it's important to know how to kind of save ourselves from hurting, right? Coming out of that herd mentality. Sorry, my tongue is twisted. So I invite Sister Ines to share her thoughts on this topic and guide us how we can actually come out of it when it's really needed. Sister Ines, very warm welcome on behalf of everyone. Good evening. Very nice to have you with us, and we are all eager to hear your thoughts, how we can come out of this peer pressure we feel all the time.
Yes. Thank you, Sister Anita. Before I welcome everyone, I would like to apologize. On the screen I'm looking at, the image is changed, so I'm seeing myself, but I really would like to see you. So I just need to change that setting on the computer.
So I'll take this opportunity to request all of you, if it's possible, if you can turn on your videos. You keep your mics muted until the floor is open to ask, floor is open for questions. But if you can turn on your videos, that'll be a very welcome sight. It's good to see your faces rather than the black boxes. Thank you, appreciate it.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's very nice to see some of you. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you. And even though I don't see your face, I know you are here. Welcome to our tonight's Thursday session. So this topic or that aspect of herd immunity mentality is a very interesting one. I think to some degree, we all follow it at some time in our lives. Unconsciously, most of the times, sometimes maybe even consciously. But it's something I think that we also grow up with. We are not necessarily taught to think individually. Typically, most of the cultures' education is such that it doesn't necessarily foster the flourishing, the growth of the child. True, real growth can only happen when there is love, consistently. And so we are living at times where this pure energy of love and the energy of peace become less and less. There's some research going on, actually quite a bit also, studying this behavior of making decisions based on what others do or how others do. And they're showing that actually a minority or a small percentage, they're saying about 5% within a crowd is enough in order to give direction to the crowd. In other words, to whether it's certain behaviors, a certain direction, certain way to go, where to go, what to do, how to be. And that means 95% are just following, 5% deciding what to do, and everyone else is following. And among those 95%, the majority was not aware that they are just conforming, that they are blindly following. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. To be conformed, to be obeyed, to go along with the crowd doesn't necessarily something bad, what I would think. But if we do so unknowingly, subconsciously, following others, adopting my way of thinking based on what others are doing, how others are behaving, that kind of behavior can even become a little bit dangerous. But it certainly does not foster individuality, independent thinking, and it doesn't, therefore also does not necessarily bring out or reveal the uniqueness of each one of us. So there are some among us in the human family who just follow, and many among those, they may even never challenge what they are doing or how they are doing something. And then there are also many who are rebellious. And for example, also when we grow up, we're passing through a period, a phase where the child, typically I believe in the teenage age, where we just rebel, we are rebellious, we don't want to go along with any establishment, we just want to do our own thing. But typically, once I'm in that stage of being rebellious, before I just went along, but at one time I find something not right. And I have found myself in that stage of being very rebellious during my study time in Austria, the country where I come from or where I grew up. I was fighting and battling a lot with certain that time present establishments. I was fighting and battling for an ideal. I myself wasn't so sure what I'm looking for, but not being happy with what is going on in my, immediate or even larger world, and then starting to criticize, to confront, pointing finger, blaming. These are very common traits that we develop when we start to wake up, and when we start to not wanting to go just along, to just follow blindly, even what parents tell us, how society, politicians, religions lead us and guide us. And when we, it's actually a very good, it's a very positive aspect when we start to awaken, when we start to questioning what is happening, but then also, you know, what is it that I'm doing, why I'm doing it. But if I'm not doing it in an accurate, appropriate way, in a non-violent way, I will encounter a lot of obstacles. And this tendency of pointing finger, this tendency of blaming, complaining, and criticizing does not necessarily create happiness in our lives, right? And battling and fighting and standing up for something is very, you know, it's good, but then also if that becomes my only aim and goal in life, it's also a little bit problematic. And when I came to New York, that was just before 2001, when we had that event in September the 11th. And so I arrived in New York, and the first year, everything was, I felt very overwhelmed. Of course, I didn't expect it, but what happened, because I felt overwhelmed with everything was available in New York. You could do anything, whether it was at the educational level, sports, leisure time, you know, so many possibilities. And I became more quiet outwardly, not inside. The battle and the fighting was continuing on the internal level. And eventually I reached that point where I realized that I need to learn how to think, because whatever direction I was going, it just did not work out. I mean, I had a good job, I had a good place to live. These things were in place, but I wasn't able to take from all the opportunities that were around me. And so I started to reflect, and I started to think a little bit more deeply. And I came to that point, like I said, I really need to learn how to think so that things start to work out in my life. And very soon after, I came in contact with the Brahma Kumaris and with the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris. And that was very impactful, because there were many, many things I did not understand at the beginning, happened gradually. But there were two main aspects which I started to practice on, even though there was not a clear and full understanding, but it grew over time. And one of those aspects was, I have learned they were teaching to bring the focus from the outer world on the self. As an average human being, as we go through our life, our energy, especially our mind energy, is mostly focused on the outside. What people do, how they are doing, why this is happening, why that is not happening. We are very consumed with the outer world and what is going on there, and very little connection with the self. And so I started to see how, you know, my own energy was caught up on the external. And then the second aspect, as you learn to come back to yourself, as you learn to turn inward, there can also be a lot of confusion. But the very good thing, and that is actually the second aspect, we learned from very early on within the organization to create a very positive and powerful self-image. And that whole understanding that this is part of my own responsibility. And so the courage then to step inward and accept and connect with a self that was actually very foreign to me. Most of you who are attending over a period of time, you're probably familiar with that whole aspect or the concept that we understand that we are more than just this physical body, that we are spiritual beings. But even deeper, when it comes to identity, that we are eternally, originally beings of goodness. I'm a pure soul, peaceful being, loveful being, powerful being, wise being, happy soul. And so this is kind of absolute and complete. There's no margin left for any shadow, for any negativity. This is who we are. And so the courage that it takes to step inward and being willing to connect to a self that you actually haven't, that you want to be, because it sounds beautiful, right? It sounds wonderful, but you haven't necessarily experienced yourself in that way. And if so, to consciously connect with the power of who you are takes a lot of courage. And so I think that's when we start to step out of that hurt mentality. Once we start to connect inwardly and we have the courage to face our light, to face our power, and to realize the value the self has, not because of what I have acquired, what I did, the family I belong to, this culture I'm coming from, or whatever, but just based on the aspect, the fact that you are a being of peace. Eternally, the soul is peace, is an innate quality. And if I do that, if I accept that, then I'm also accepting that concept of nonviolence. And so that's where the journey then begins. If I have if I'm really interested to uphold a very powerful self-image based on my spiritual identity, then I will also come to know and have to come to face with the inner demons, the fears, the desires, and all these kind of tendencies that we have developed of criticizing, of complaining, and all of that. Because we are doing this outwardly, but actually it started with the self. And to develop such a relationship with the self that on a non-violent basis, using my innate goodness, I re-establish myself. There is a I was looking through, I like to choose some quotes. And there's one I found here. I don't know from whom it is, but I thought this is very appropriate. You cannot rely on others. Sorry, you cannot rely on other people to achieve the result you want in life. You are the only one responsible for your results. Take responsibility, ownership, and take action. Being on this inner journey, overcoming the inner darkness by grounding yourself, stabilizing yourself in your inner truth. Eventually, then you will also want to live your life in a way where whatever you do, that supports of who you are. And if you want to live your dream, if you want to really go and thrive in life, communication is a very important aspect. And so now from that inner space where I'm working on a relationship with my own self, which is based on peace, love, truth, acceptance, respect, compassion, and to manifest in life what you want to do and how you want to do it, and to communicate step by step with the world. A lot of courage is needed. We have to communicate. Everyone has the right to express whatever they want to say. How I feel, what I think. And the more we are able to come from that inner dimension and to speak and communicate clearly with respect, then we are able to maintain relationships, but also it becomes possible to live a life where whatever you do, with whomever you interact, supports your true self, supports your identity. If peace is what I value, then that peace and that respect has to infuse everything that I express outwardly. And, you know, life is all about relationships. Relationships is also that area where a lot of sorrow is experienced. So by understanding my own relationship, understanding myself, and having a very empowering, encouraging relationship with the self, now that's how I will then also manifest my relationships with others. But it has to start within. And in all these steps, journey inward and then coming from inward back to the outside in a new way, where you have found what is true for you, where you have identified or are identifying what you want from yourself, from others, from life. You take responsibility. you take action. You're not just expecting, but you take action, you earn the result. And so taking responsibility in this way, we have to also learn to think independently, while valuing and respecting everyone and what everyone does, but yet to remain uninfluenced. And that energy of love is very crucial, because what is it that connects us? We speak of one human family. Most are strangers to me, but what is it that connects us? It's that pure love. Now, if there is not that pure love among us, then there is friction, there is separation. And so if I have that courage to hold on and live up to that very powerful self-image, that also teaches me to have a very positive outlook, very positive perspective, perception of others, because I come to know my own inner mistakes, my own shortcomings. And as I'm learning to accept and forgive my own self, it becomes possible to do that also with others. And so the lion, many qualities, but three of those, one is definitely courage, fearlessness, and the value of freedom. The courage to be true to yourself, the courage to express what is true for you to the outer world. One big fear that we have is to be criticized by others. There's fear about opinions of others, what others will think, what will they say. And so many times, because there's a lack of inner strength, we start to conform, we start to abide, we start to compromise what is true for us. We start to ignore our own feelings. And that's not very healthy. And if I'm doing this over a period of time, and I may not be fully aware that I'm doing that, you will come to know, because it will create a lot of havoc within yourself. You will easily, or we will easily feel victimized, not respected, and all these things. And so the courage to conquer fear, to realize that I am bigger than the fear. And then, of course, especially mentioning the quality of courage, there is that saying that child takes one step of courage and the father, now in this case, the unlimited spiritual father, God, will help thousandfold. And if that courage is used in the context of truth, and truth in the context of I am a being of peace, I am a being of love, I'm a pure soul, I'm a powerful soul, I'm a happy soul, then within that context, God will definitively give a lot of help. freedom is also a quality that many, I don't know everyone, probably everyone, values, but maybe not necessarily everyone stands up for it. And if we do, well, I know it from my own self. I did it in a way where I was confronting others. So it's not a very successful method either. So freedom in the sense where because I've developed an inner power, and there's that self-honor, self-regard, self-respect, self-value, where I then also start to value a way of thinking that is different from others, where I do not confront, where I do not come from a place of ego, but from a place of inner truth, inner wisdom. To have the greatness, the generosity to respect everyone and what they think and what they have to say, and however someone is, it's not my business. But still, there has to be respect towards that being. Because as a matter of fact, at one point, or their original state of being is the same as mine. Pure, peaceful, loveful, powerful, joyful. But to live up to that and make it a reality takes a lot of courage. But I find is also something that there's, the end of the day, it's very satisfying, very fulfilling. And before we do the question and answer, I thought also to mention there are some traps we can step into or fall into. You know, in the spirit of being courageous, we also can become reckless. And with the best of intention to connect to my higher truth, or to connect to my truth, connect to my higher self, we can easily get trapped in by the different egos that live within the self. Over the time, out of ignorance, we started to take on different personas, different identities, different egos, not form, but identities of who am I. So with certain people, I show a certain persona, then I am in a different place with different people, a different situation, I project a different persona again. So we have many different identifications, so-called personas within the self. And we can look at those like as masks. So ego is kind of a mask, the false ego. And so if I like, for example, for us, we understand from the spiritual teachings that the self is a spiritual being, the self is an actor. Now, as an actor, I play my part. And as I play my part, I'm playing many different roles. So I'm using, you know, in Italy, in Venice, they have beautiful masks, very special ones. Brazil, very beautiful face masks. So you put on one mask, you change the mask for the next scene, you're an actor. But as an actor with that awareness, I am not identifying with the mask. I'm playing the part in the context of that mask. But then the next moment, life requires a different response. Different qualities need to be expressed. I change the mask. I'm flexible because I am not holding on to it. I haven't identified myself with it. It's just a mask. Now, the problem with the ego comes in when the mask starts to fuse with who I am, when the mask becomes my identity. That means I have built many different personas. I'm the same being, but I took on different identities, beliefs of who I am or what I am. And I identify with one mask, with another mask. One is that it can become confusing, but also there will be insecurity. Deep, deep within the being, there is insecurity. It's like you're building the house on the foundation of sand. If there is sand and you build a house, higher, taller one, will that ever work? That house will sooner than later collapse because the sand is not, it needs a solid, it needs a strong foundation. So spiritually, in the spiritual context, if I identify with who I truly am, with my original eternal face, I am a being of light, I am peace, love, and so on. And I built the strength, I built inner capacity based on my true identity. Identity informs everything, my thinking, my believing, my attitudes, the way I feel, my perception, and how I eventually will interact and perform in life. So if I'm connected with my spiritual truth, now that is where security will start to emerge, where I will start to feel very secure within my own self of who and what I am. And that becomes a strength. And that strength then will manifest more and more in the way you think, in your feelings, in your attitudes, in your vision of yourself, vision of the world, your interactions with others, your interaction with the world. And so there's such a deep connection, identity with who I truly am. There's no more need to compromise my truth because I feel secure, safe within my own self. And I know that I have all the capacities and strength I need within myself. So whatever situation comes, I will deal with it when it is there. I can think, I can discern, I can make decisions, I can ask what someone else, someone more experienced would think, or how that one would see the situation. I can consult, but I will always, before I make a decision, come back to myself and check in with myself. Is this what I want? And so then when I make a decision, I also take 100% responsibility for it. If things work out, fantastic. If things don't work out that well, I will reconsider, but I will not make someone else or even God responsible for that. And it becomes very beautiful in a machinery, in a way, how you then move through your life. You become more and more solid, and you can also become, because there's stability within you. And that is a strength, is a support, becomes a support for those around you who don't have that strength. That strength is not because of something or someone. No, that strength is because of your true alignment, of who you truly are, your alignment with your inner alignment, but then also your alignment with possibly time and God. And so when we speak of sheep or lion coming out from the herd mentality, just running, doing the way someone is saying and wants me to be and this and that, it's about being just a follower or being a leader. And a leader who can inspire is definitively powerful. And you don't have to have a position for that. Your position is your position within your own self. And so then life, there's no desire or greed for external power or recognition, approval of others, because it's all within you. And so the freedom then to be who you are under all circumstances, and not while valuing and respecting what everyone says or doesn't say, you stay true to your higher self, to who you truly are. You don't get influenced. And so you are able to move on in a life in a very, very powerful way, where you are fearless and also very respectful and loving to your fellow human companions. So we can pause here and see if you would like to share something, if you have a thought, comment, question.
Hello?
Hello.
That was beautiful. That was wonderful, and I've boiled it down to purpose. Purpose. When you identify your purpose in life, and you then have the courage to listen to others in a way that can help someone, but not always. But to know yourself and know your inner soul. I think purpose is my trigger. My trigger is helping people, to help people, and it can be anything, like that. But once you find a place that helps you, your worries go away because you have that purpose.
Right.
So I'm putting it in some other words, but I'm hoping other people believe what I'm saying. you know. So I went into real estate business, and I sell houses and apartments and so forth in New York, and I make it a my purpose is to help them, you know, to help people, and
Right.
that's what gives me lots of pleasure, and I don't call it work. I call it a passion. It's a passion. Becomes a
Right.
passion. Work becomes a passion.
Right. It's very beautiful what you're saying. And it's so true. When you are settled, truly settled within yourself, and there is, you know, there's a purpose, and there's actually a higher purpose that you're following here, then our ability to listen and to express compassion without
Yeah.
having the need to fix anyone or fix anyone's life, because it does take a lot of inner strength, inner capacity to remain present and open-hearted, compassionate when someone is going through some difficult times, someone
Yeah.
is suffering, or, you know, even going through a physical illness, could be even, you know, death or whatever, is a little extreme now, but without having the need, because many just do the need to be listened to. And what is it, you know, what is it that we can give or do at the physical level? But if we can be a source of hope and inspiration for others, is especially nowadays an amazing, very important contribution to life.
Yes. And although I'm a real estate broker, I don't even use that title because I felt that was a hard word, a broker. Buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. I call myself a facilitator. I'm a real estate facilitator. I don't use the title of a broker. I'm licensed in the state of New York, but I call myself the facilitator because facilitating means helping.
Right, right. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It's very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. I got in a little late, but I really appreciated the 20 minutes I had listening to you.
Thank you, Gregory. Is there anyone else who would like to share something or ask something? If not, then yes.
Sister, I like the comparison with the mask and the personas. And you said the problem is that we are externally identified and oriented, and we need to move inward. And you said in your early teenage experience and you came into meditation, you learned how to connect with your true self, your inner self that is unchanging and stays stable, loving, peaceful, etc. So to be part of the herd mentality is to be hijacked by my masks that I wear and keep connecting with other people's masks. So I'm living this fake, twice removed from reality existence. So everything keeps falling apart. And like you said, it takes courage to play the role, but then true to my inner space behind that mask and remind myself, I am not this mask. So I love that analogy, and it makes it much more practical to say, you know, I'm an actor playing this role. I still need to play my part, but this mask is not who I am. I am much more than that. So thank you for that. It's a very powerful imagery for me, and I am going to share it with as many people as I can. Thank you, Sister Om Shanti.
Thank you, Prabha, for sharing. Thank you. Yeah, this whole aspect, the ego is very interesting. For a very long time also, I was always in workshops, and so people spoke about the false ego and the true ego, if there's something like that, if something like that exists. And I said, not as far as I understand. But then I came to understand and realize, ego is really the self. But what we need to do is we need to purify the ego. It's very important that as an individual that I need to connect to the self, to that I am. But there's a pure and there's an impure form of the I, dependent on the consciousness I am in. And I don't want to go further into this now, but just to let you know that here with the Brahma Kumaris, we understand when we speak of soul consciousness, I'm conscious that I am a spiritual being, a soul. I'm connecting to the pure self. And if I consider myself to be a mortal being, if I identify myself with something perishable, I am body conscious. And that is the impure self. If I do not connect to that I am, there can never be power. It's like you are like a loose leaf in the air. So that I is the anchor. And that's the deepest connection that I can have. The connection with I, the being, but it has to be the pure one. And that's where then the security within your own self will start to emerge. And then we can afford, we can be very flexible, we can be humorous, we will adopt many very beautiful qualities. It's a life journey, but it's a very beautiful and enriching life journey. Yes, I see the time. Sister Anita, shall we do a meditation?
Sure. If anyone else wants to share their thoughts, seems like they connected with what you shared so deeply. If not, then we can spend a few minutes for meditation. Anyone else want to share? Okay, I think over to you for meditation, Sister Ines.
So we sit comfortably with a straight back. And I gently bring the energy upward. And I focus genuinely the center of the forehead. For the next few moments, I choose to detach, to unplug from the outer world and to give space, attention, focus to the inward journey. And as I turn within, step within, I do that with an aim. And the aim is to touch base, reconnect with a deeper truth of who I am. I have the interest to reach, to go for the stars. And one way to do so is to have the courage to consider the self to be a non-violent being of light and might, a being of peace, a being of pure love, a being of joy, strength and wisdom. This is my spiritual identity. This is who I, the being, are. An actor in this body, and I, the being, I'm the one who experiences everything, who does everything through this body. And on this journey, I have the courage to face my fears, to face the shortcomings, the courage to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, but not identify with it. It has come, it is here, it will go. It's like a stranger passing by at the house. I am a being of pure love, and I definitively have respect for everyone. There's no need for judgment. There's no need to put any limitations on anyone, because I don't do that with myself. I'm practicing to have complete respect for the self, complete acceptance, and being connected to my inner true self. I have the courage to face or to feel my greatest joys. I value that happiness, but at the same time, there's no need to fear my shortcomings. Or when I find myself influenced by different energies, I use my inner capacity, my inner strength. I use my goodness to overcome shortcomings. I forgive when I make mistakes. And this inner relationship becomes the blueprint for how I relate to the outer world. While I practice to live up to my inner standard, I maintain integrity. There's no pressure on anyone, but there's love, there's respect, there's value, and the willingness to see the goodness in everyone, even though what I see through the physical eyes when I see that the goodness is hidden, is not expressed, that being is under some other influence. But because I have self-respect, I'm able to uphold my true self. I also have the power to connect, to see and connect with what is good in others, even though they don't express it. And in this way, we become a source of strength and support for others when they are in need. Om Shanti.
Om
Om
Shanti.
Shanti.
Thank
Om
you,
Shanti.
sister.
Thank you.
Thank you, sister.